Hi, this is Roger, thanks for dropping by. Today I'm feeding my Pleiones, and I thought, as I've got to get them all out individually sort of, it might be an ideal time to do an update on how they are growing, because obviously blooming's long since finished now. So we'll get on and do it. Obviously I'll have my back to you a fair bit of the time while I'm actually watering, but it's not like there's hundreds of them, is it? Right, so we'll just get them out individually. I'll turn the camera around so that you can see what I'm up to and see the plants. Something like that, I would think. Yeah, that'll do. And for those of you who are interested, that is Orchid Focus Grow at a TDS of 670. I can hear the gasps in horror in the background. That's higher than I feed my Cymbidium some of the time, and according to David Mathers, if you don't feed them high, you will not get big bulbs, you won't get the results you want the following year. So I'm following that advice. Given that there's a national collection and some pretty rare stuff in that collection, so we'll follow the advice of what I would class as an expert. The pH is 5.8. Now my normal orchids I wouldn't put a pH in that low, but these are forest floor dwellers, so they're growing in leaf litter and that sort of thing, so they would naturally have a low pH around them. So I'm following along that as well, and that was again what Jim said, that's the sort of level he normally comes in at for the Pleiones. So I mean, occasionally I might go a bit higher so that it can drop down in the pot. Pot does contain some sphagnum moss. Now it's new at the moment, but eventually that will turn a little more acidic and hold the pH at a lower value. Right, let's get going. Oof. Now this is the Tongariro that was a Project Orchids plant. This is a pot full. That's a fly we can do without. And this one has a habit of growing bulbils out of the top of the bulbs. And the bulbs it's growing out of the top of are the older bulbs, the bulbs that are destined to shrivel and die. Now we do have some leaves that have flopped. Now I've got a horrible feeling that means that that bulb probably won't swell as well as it should, because although it will feed itself from the roots, it's not going to get the food from photosynthesis because of the crease in the leaf. Now there's a couple that have done that, but nonetheless this is a pot full, it's growing well, leaves look good apart from the couple that have bent over obviously, and the growths are pushing on, but they're not bulbs yet. So you know, this is all new to me. This is my first full growing season with quite a few varieties, and at some point the growths, which are just a leaf hanging out the side of the older bulb, will form bulbs, and it'll be nice to see how long it takes before they start to swell up and look like next year's bulbs. Anyway, water and feed, that's what we're here for. Now the last time they got watered they had a flush. That's one of the reasons for the high feed this time round. They will be a bit deprived of food from the flush because I haven't watered them for a while since then. This is a bit of a problem until they really get going. They're not drying out as fast as I expected, and as a consequence, following a flush, they go in a couple of weeks with no food. And given the, well, what I would call a relatively short growing season, we can do without too much of that. Right, so that's that one. Put that to one side. That was Tongariro. Now this is Hertha Kurtz, so this is a Mathers one. 2 bulbs and 2 new growths per bulb. Leaves are pushing on. Yeah, So it's doing okay. As I said, where I had 2 bulbs, next year I'll have 4. Whether that means I'll get 4 blooms or not remains to be seen. But nonetheless, it seems to be growing okay. That's that one. Next, there's quite a few small flies in and around these pots. I'm going to bring my pinguicula over to this area. When I put all the plants back, I'm going to find a little space for the pinguicula and see if we can deal with that. Right, this one is Vesuvius leopard, and it was 3 bulbs and it has 3 new growths. So where we had 3 bulbs, we will only have 3 next year. So what we need to do is push these growths on as big and fat as we possibly can, so that next year maybe we'll get 2 growths on some of these bulbs. Otherwise we're only ever going to have 3 new growths, and at the moment this hasn't got big leaves. So this looks like a bit of a slow grower, this one. And is going to be reluctant to clump up, sorry. Get me clumps in the right manner. Alright, so that's that one. Now I'm going to get the tray out next, because the tray I can put back, and then we can get the last few out. Some of them are actually in a tray, and this is not, it's not a mat tray. It's not one of those where it's got the matting in the bottom. They're just in a tray for this reason. You know, I've just got 6 plants out in one go. You like this? Right, now this one is a species. This is Formosana. I'll get there in a minute. And this was 2 bulbs, and we have 4 shoots. Now this didn't bloom this spring. This didn't bloom at all. So obviously the bulbs didn't have enough energy. But nonetheless, we're looking at a very small bulb with a new growth. That's this one. And then a much larger bulb with 3 new growths. So this one is capable of clumping up, but at the moment it's probably a little weak. Now if we can grow these growths on, you have to sort of see the difference in that leaf and this leaf. Yeah, so you can see already that some growths are stronger than others. And again, as I said, I'm new to all this. You know, the growth patterns, how they grow, at what period they bulk up, all of that sort of thing I will take note of this year. But at the moment it's new to me. Right, so that's the little species. This one is Shangfun Ducat. Now this was the yellow one. And again, we started with 2 large bulbs, we had 2 flowers, and we've got therefore 2 new growths. Very large leaves on this one, very large. So hopefully we'll get 2 really massive bulbs which may produce more than 1 growth next year, which could mean more than 1 bloom per bulb. Not necessarily though, sometimes you get 2 growths but only 1 blooms. Depends on the strength in the bulb when it comes to coming back out of dormancy next year. That's it. Get some good strong feed in there. And give it as much encouragement as possible. Now this pot, I can see roots all round the edge, you know, near the surface. Because as I'm watering, the surface moves because the media is small. So this has actually got roots all throughout the pot, which is good stuff. With this trickly watering noise, it's a good job I don't need a wing. It could be difficult. Right, what have we got next then? What we've got next is Marion Johnson, and it's Bubs, the variety Bubs. Now this was 2 bulbs, and each bulb has produced one reasonably strong growth, but this bulb has produced a second growth. It's weaker, it's thinner, leaf's not so big. Yeah, these are all things I'm sort of making mental notes of. That sometimes, although a bulb might produce 2 growths, they're not of equal strength. There is a dominant one and perhaps not so much. So again, 2 bulbs, but this time we have 3 new growths. But I would suspect that only the 2 strong ones will bloom. Nonetheless, we will have 3 bulbs next year. So where there was 2, there will be 3. That's not much of an increase, but it's better than none, which is what some of the others might do. Oh, I read somewhere, probably on the internet, so it might not be true, that that yellow one we've just looked at, that's obviously got Foresty Eye in it, the species, which is the yellow species. And I read somewhere that that is one of the most difficult species to keep going long term. You get new bulbs and it flowers again, and then after a couple of years it stops flowering and then the bulbs get weaker. So it's a difficult one to keep going long term. And if that's a trait of one of the main species in the hybrid, then that's possibly going to pass that trait on. So that yellow one might be difficult to keep going. Right, what are we up to then? This one next. And this one is Quizzapoo peregrine. Quizzapoo, I believe, is either a volcano or a mountain, and there are a whole set of Pleiones named after such. Now this is 3 bulbs with 3 shoots, so this one hasn't bulked up at all this year. I'm pretty sure we had blooms, but we've got 3 shoots and leaves all around the same size and strength. So hopefully we'll have 3 bulbs that are good enough to bloom next year. So that's that one. Now I've got a trip out tomorrow. My friend from school days, with the guitars and the music room down the bottom of the garden and all that sort of stuff, sent me a text and said he waits for his wife to, she has a day away now and again. I don't know whether she visits friends or something or other anyway. And when she's away, he often contacts me to come over and do a catch up and a visit sort of thing. So I'm going over there tomorrow. I'm not taking my guitars, but apparently we're going to go to the music shop near where he lives. And it is near, it's just round the corner. And it's a massive music shop. So it sells all types of instruments and equipment, you know, so we'll spend some time looking around there, I suspect. And we'll put the world to rights while we're at it. Yeah. That's what you do when you catch up. Right, so this one, in a clay pot for whatever reason, is, oh I know why, this is Pleione Zeus. This is the one that didn't bloom properly and yet several friends that had a handful out of the same batch. This was somebody bought a load of bulbs into the Orchid Society, laid them out on a table and just said, help yourself, anybody who wants some. And I took some and some friends took some. Now one of those friends had his pot full in the spring show, the Wessex Spring Show, and they looked absolutely gorgeous. My blooms were a miserable failure, and it's relatively certain that it was because they were too warm. So this is Zeus, and I had 3 bulbs, and each bulb has produced 2 shoots, which means it's going to clump up quite quickly, this one, because where there were 3, next year there'll be 6. In theory, there could be 12 the following year. And that might be why somebody bought a load in to give away, because it bulks up quickly. Anyway, good sized leaves, growth's pushing on quite nicely, and I can see straight away that out of the 2 growths per bulb, one shoot is a little stronger. You look at these 2. This one is a little stronger than this one. So although it's having 6 growths, it's still possible we might only get 3 blooms next year. And hopefully with my cold treatment for the dormancy period, we'll get some flipping decent blooms this time. The blooms are absolutely stunning, but they only lasted a couple of days, literally 2 or 3 days, and they started keeling over. So hopefully we can do better next year. I've got a horrible feeling I'm going to run out of water before I finish here. It's because I haven't had enough experience of watering these as to how much they absorb. Because like if I had this amount of water and I watered my Phalaenopsis in the kitchen, when I finished I'd still have roughly the same amount of water. They don't hold that much because it's large bark and most of the water goes through. It just wets the media. Now this pot's full of roots as well, all over the place. There's a dead leaf in there as well, which isn't a Pleione leaf, it's off another orchid somewhere. So that was Zeus. Now we've got another quite big pot full. This is Pleione Vicky. Now this is one from Mather's, and they took a load of their plants across to Dresden, and Vicky was encircled by awards. It got loads of awards. It got more awards than any other plant at the show, and that's not bad for a Pleiones, and I've got one. Now this is just Vicky, whereas the one that won all the awards at Dresden was a named variety. That doesn't mean to say that this isn't the same one. This could have been sold to me by Mather's prior to that one getting registered with its name. Anyway, this started off as 3 bulbs, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 shoots. So where we started with 3 bulbs, we'll have 7 bulbs next year. But again, if you look the difference, if you look at the size of this growth here and this one here, this one's weak. This one's a little bit weaker than this one. So they do vary, and it looks like when a bulb puts up 2, there is one that's stronger than the other. That might mean only the stronger one blooms. We'll have to wait and see, because I haven't had these going long enough to know that one way or the other. Nonetheless, we will stonk up the feed, and this is going to be the last one because I've run out of water. Now that is a right pain, because it's a bit of a nuisance having to stop, because what I've got to do now is I've got to go and update my notes with the ones I've watered so far with this mix, and then mix up some more for 4 plants, which is a nuisance. But they've got to have some feed, but the chances of me getting the next mix exactly the same as... Oh, I've still got some up there, you dork. What a pleb. We haven't run out of water at all, we've just run out of the bit in here. Anyway, this one, Vicky, I would class as one of my best, and it's doing well. So So what we can do now is we can put the whole tray back out of the way and get some more pots out in the space that we've got left. Now, because I shuffled a few things around, all of my Pleiones are on the same shelf now, which also makes life easy. Right. This has got a mealybug on it, you dare. Well, it's the first bug I've seen actually on it. There was that little black fly earlier, but as I said, I'll get my my thing, Pinguicula, over in a gap over here somewhere and see if it can deck some of these flies. Okay, now this one is red colobus, which David Mather's classed as one of the best reds there is, and it's incredibly vigorous because I had to pay quite a lot for this. One, because of what it is, and two, because of what it was doing, because although it was a pot with only 2 bulbs, one very large one and one not so big, it only had the 2 bulbs. It had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 new growths from 2 bulbs. That's going to bulk up pretty damn quick. Now, when David Mathers was talking about the Pleiones as part of the, well, it wasn't part of the talk because most of the people had left. It was the few more interested ones that stayed behind, like me. Well, I also was staying behind so that I had a bigger empty space to be able to film. But he kept referring to the ones in the back corner as a technical name, something like tetraploids or something like that, but it meant they had much more oomph in them. It happens with other types of orchids as well. There's some oncidium types that are just, they've got twice the something or others, and I don't, this is not science, I don't know this well enough to talk about it fluently, but basically this was one of those that had four of whatever these things are, which made it incredibly strong and vigorous. And yeah, I mean, some of these growths on here are a bit small. They will produce bulbs that probably won't bloom next year, but I would suggest that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, maybe 7 of these growths will bloom next year. And if I can be bothered, which I might do because I haven't got much else on today, I've got the RO unit on, because my next big watering will probably come up Friday. Hannah's down at the weekend, so the couple of people who suggested I need a haircut, that may well take place this weekend if Hannah's down, if we get time. But that's something that we could possibly do after we've eaten on Saturday, is just sort of plonk me down on a chair in the kitchen and Hannah can snip away while I sip me wine, something like that. It'll probably be better than watching the rubbish on the TV that we get nowadays. Anyway, so this red colobus, I'll get there in a minute. It's a type of monkey, I believe, isn't it? Or some type of ape. I have to go careful using the word monkey. Monkey is a type of ape. Anyway, this one hasn't been repotted. This is in Mather's mix, as I bought it this year, and it has a lot of new shoots, and hopefully we'll put on a good show next year. Pleased with that one. As I said, I picked the pot up and David looked at it and he, you know, I could see his face sort of thinking, he knows I haven't got much money. You can tell that by the number of plants I buy compared with some other people. I could see that he wanted to charge more, but he let it go for me. Now this one is Pleione Orchids. And this has actually got Forestii in it. It's Chytrosulfur, so it's got Forestii in it. The sulfur obviously is in part Forestii, which is the yellow species. 1 bulb, 1 shoot, and it's not a strong shoot. The leaf hasn't formed properly yet, So this one's slow, and like somebody said, like I read, if Forestii is notoriously not so easy to grow in cultivation, my mouth won't work, then that could be why this is not a vigorous plant. Anyway, we get some food in there, see if we can get a growth big enough to bloom next year. Ugh. And then the other one that came from Mathers this year, this is, it's a well-known hybrid, it's Glacier Peak. And this one has a number on the end of it, 530014. That's because Glacier Peak is a hybrid, and it has many forms from virtually pure white through to a reasonable pink, and lots of in-betweens. Yeah? So as a consequence, it has different names. Now the problem with this is, it looks like it's two bulbs, but it's difficult to see the second one. But given that there's two sets of growths, but one set of growths is new, I'm pretty sure this was one bulb. And this is the bulb over here with its natural growth from the bloom. It is putting up a second one, tiny, and then over here there's either a bulb buried in the media, or there's some shoots coming out, you know, elongated. But nonetheless, there's 4 shoots on that. There won't be 4 blooms next year, there'll probably only be 1. But we will get 4 bulbs to grow on. So that's that one. Get a good dose of feed in there. See if these smaller growths will pull on. You have to bear in mind, we're looking at the growth towards the end of May, so we're well into the growing season, but the growing season for Pleiones starts at different times because some are early bloomers, i.e. the shoot grows quite early, and some are later bloomers. So some start their growing season 6 to 8 weeks later than some of the others. I hope they don't all finish at once. I hope they have an appropriate growing season and go into autumn a little bit further before they drop their leaves. Now the last one here is the one that is potentially virused, but looking at some of the plants at Mathers and some of the plants here, it's got the benefit of a doubt. The reason I think it's virused is the patchiness of the leaves. Yeah? Now that's not definite because I saw plants at Mathers with leaves like that. Perhaps not quite as bad as that, but we shall see. But I'm keeping it separate. I always water it last, and then I basically sterilise the stuff that I've used. So just in case. I would imagine that the virus that affects Pleiones is mainly potato type viruses, of which apparently there are many, and they are spread through Pleione collections via aphids in the main, because they do suffer from aphids if you let them in. The trouble is many people put their Pleiones outside to grow for the summer, so they are very prone to insects coming in with viruses. You know, they've been biting on things that have viruses, they come in, nibble your Pleione leaves, and they've passed it on. Mine are trapped in here. That might mean it's going to be a bit warm for them on some days. Bearing in mind we're looking at possible heat wave this weekend. It's going to warm up slightly today, but not dramatically. Tomorrow it gets warmer. Friday pretty warm. Saturday warm enough to trigger some thunderstorms, possibly. Won't be one here, I'm sure. But you know, we may get some. And then Sunday and Monday very warm. And the heat wave scenarios in this country depend on which county you're in, where the start point is. But it's basically 3 consecutive days where the average temperature is more than a certain amount. And for this county, Dorset, where I am, even though I'm right on the edge of it, I'm almost Hampshire. But basically Hampshire, to declare a heat wave is 1 degree higher than Dorset, and we're looking at 26 for Dorset, 27. So here, 3 consecutive days at 26 degrees is declared a heat wave. So we may get one, and then the good weather runs on into next week. I mean, I had a look at the weather for the week ahead. Well, obviously it's Wednesday today, so I can only look forward to next Wednesday. And next week is just sunshine. So we may be in for another period where there's no rain for the garden. At the moment, the garden itself is well watered, and we've had enough rain that I don't need to water my bonsai today, but I will tomorrow. So there we are. So this is the last one. As I said, it's potentially virused. 3 bulbs, 3 growths. And I will monitor it, keep it separate, doesn't touch anything else, and water it separately and blast. So I'm keeping it entirely separate. If you think about it, I managed to keep Hannah's Cymbidium in amongst other Cymbidiums, and that plant was definitely heavily virused, without it spreading anywhere, so hopefully we can do the same with this. So basically that goes right at the back of the shelf in the corner, with the leaves pointing away from any others, so it stays separate. Which is good, you know, at least I know where it is, and I know to watch out, making sure other things don't touch it. So those are the Pleiones and their status as far as growth is concerned. We have no new bulbs forming yet, but we have growths at various stages, some not as strong as others, leaves of different sizes. I remember last year Tongariro had some pretty hefty leaves. You look at the size of this one. So yeah, I think they're doing okay. But the proof of the pudding, the proof of this year's care, is what happens next year when they come out of dormancy. You can't tell until then. And when they come out of dormancy, we find out how many of the bulbs produced this year actually bloom, and following the blooms, how many new shoots those bulbs put up for the following year. So yeah, that's where we are. And yeah, there's nothing else. Oh, my car went in for its MOT yesterday. It passed eventually. It failed first time on a bulge on the tyre that I hadn't seen. So I had to have a new tyre basically, so it was a bit more expensive than just the basic MOT. But apart from that, it's fine. Yeah, that's that done for another year now. So it all comes at once basically. The MOT and my car insurance needs renewing as well, but that's on the 9th of June, so that runs into next month. But yeah, that's gone up a lot. My original insurance for last year was £280. The quote they gave me for this year was £360. I found more than comparable insurance, probably a bit better, for £320 by using the comparison sites. So I will phone up my insurer and actually tell them what I found, and they may well do what they did last year and make me a one-time offer on the day, the same as the price I've been quoted by others. And if they do that, I'll stay with the one I'm with. Saves mucking about. But you have to haggle. You've got to haggle nowadays. You've got to phone up and tell them you're leaving. And then they try and persuade you to stay. Whoops. And obviously the people you're speaking to, the salespeople, they have authority to drop the quote down to a certain amount by a certain percentage, probably. What annoys me is, why don't they just give you that as your quote? And then you'd just do it, wouldn't you? Why cause the hassle? And it's because lots of people don't haggle. Lots of people just accept their quote and pay it. They don't even think about changing companies or anything like that. I do. Right, so let's get all these back together again, and I don't know whether I should do a video tomorrow. I might use it as a day off, as I'm going around my friend's house. and we do have a problem. Well, it might have to be late again. I was going to say I've got the last of the Project Orchid videos to do, the final part for Plant 5. I'm not looking forward to doing it because it's not going to get many views, none of them have. But I need to do it to finish the project. So I might just do that on Friday and just do a quick version just to finish it off. We shall see. And then Saturday I'm travelling early to go and get Anna. We will probably do work in the garden. I was going to say if the weather's bad then we might start cleaning up and moving things around in the grow room, but the weather isn't going to be bad, so we'll probably work in the garden. And again on Sunday I suspect. We shall see. And yeah, what else? There's something I'm doing next week. Forgotten what it is now. Never mind, it'll come to me probably in the next video or something like that. And thanks for dropping by and everything. Don't forget the old thumbs up. Don't forget your hypes if you haven't used them this week. And if you're not subscribed, it would be nice if you did so. It doesn't cost anything, despite the implications of the name, subscribe. It's a free thing. And don't forget your hypes. Again, that's something that's free to do. Against either videos and or channels that you like and you follow. And as I say, don't forget the old thumbs up. Again, that's under your nose now, so you can do that right now. And I will see you next time. Thanks for dropping by.